Watch and burn.
Hey everybody! So today I would like to discuss, I was going to say another made-for-TV movie, but you don't know that I discussed another made-for-TV movie. So today I would like to discuss the 1981 made-for-TV movie called Fallen Angel. I make a remark about how they don't make made-for-TV movies like this anymore, but I can't because they just straight up don't make made-for-TV movies anymore. But they don't. Nonetheless, the saying still kind of holds true. This is a story about a pedophile and how he is currently scoping on a new 12-year-old girl by the name of Jennifer. The pedophile, his character's name is Howard Nichols. The girl in question, her name is Jennifer. Her mom's name is Sherry, and her stepdad, or her mom's boyfriend's name, I believe, is Frank. They're the principals. They're all you really have to know. There are technically more characters in this. But what happens is Jennifer meets Howard, the pedophile, at an arcade where he's putting up flyers for his softball team. That, of course, he coaches because he may or may not love baseball, but he's really doing it because it gets him close to kids, and he can scout which kids he wants to try and exploit. I mean, the movie starts off so vicious. It starts off with Howard sort of cuddling this 12-year-old girl who is clearly very, very fucked up as the result of what he did to her. And he's saying how he loves her and all this, and it's like, and she just kind of sits there rocking because of the amount of times he's had sex with her, and how, as the result of that, there's nothing left of this girl. So that's how the movie kicks off, and I'm thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, made-for-TV movies in the early 80s did not fuck around. Like, this movie's like lethal. So anyways, yeah, Howie starts to sort of groom Jennifer, takes some Polaroids of her. Of course, she's fully clothed, and he starts comparing her to Raquel Welch. And at one point, he's like, no, wait, you know what? You do look just like, I can't remember if it was like Farrah Fawcett or Raquel Welch. He's like, you do look just like Farrah Fawcett, only you're sexier. And of course, because the chick's Jennifer's 12, she's like, ooh, that's so sweet. And I'm like, oh, dude, you're so gross. So he gets her out for this little photo session in the middle of some grotto somewhere where he's by himself, and he starts to get her to try and lift up this and lift up that, and he starts showing her a magazine filled with kiddie porn, trying to get her used to the idea of this sort of adult on child love that is so normal to him and so natural. And he ends up getting her, talking her into it, and he gives her a puppy. And then he says if she doesn't follow through, he's going to get rid of the puppy. The puppy's going back to the pound, and they're going to put this little fucker down if you don't take your clothes off. So, of course, she complies. And then her parents find out about this because some pervert that her stepdad or her mom's boyfriend, Frank, works with, some sheet metal dude, had some kiddie porn magazine, which is kind of weird, I thought, because, kiddie porn has always been illegal, and it will always be illegal. So I just don't know how some dude is feeling safe enough to be like, oh, guys, look what I got, and he brings it out at work. Like, it's a one-way ticket to prison. And not to mention the fact that before you go to prison, all your coworkers are probably going to beat the shit out of you, too. So I just don't understand why these guys feel so free to pull this shit out at their job. But nonetheless, they do. And Frank sees this picture of a girl in it. She's like 12, looks just like Jennifer. And she's in some movie. So him and her mom ask her about it, and she's like, no, it's crazy, because Howie has already sort of taught her how to lie her way through this situation with her parents. And then after that, she gets really guilt-ridden and sort of fearful that, like, oh my God, my parents are going to think I'm this, I'm that. So she decides to leave home. She tracks down Howie. She's like, can I stay with you or whatever? And he's like, oh, I don't know about this. And then she's like, yeah, but I'm getting so good at this. I can be real good at this for you. And then, of course, Howie, because Howie is an exceptional pervert. See, he doesn't just use them for sex, but he actually falls in love with them. So when he sees her saying, I'm getting really good at this and I can get even better at it for you, and then she touches him, he's like, oh shit, yo, we got to get married now. This is the woman for me. And yeah, so this movie's gross. But what I liked about it was just how frank and how open and how relentlessly honest it was regarding pedophilia. Like, this movie makes no qualms about what this film is about. Like, wow, the early 80s like to scare the shit out of kids. And I couldn't agree more with that, because I was a kid in the 80s. We were kind of dumb, like everybody else, and we had way too much freedom back then because our parents had no way to monitor us. I can't tell you how many times I had conversations with, like, adult men in, under bridges and shit, when me and my friends would be hanging out and some dude would come down. He'd be like, what are you kids doing? And we talked to him and everything. Everything was fine. And, you know, we went, and he went his way, we went our way. But looking back at all those times in relation, sorry, to made-for-TV movies like this that were no doubt aimed at not just parents, but at kids as well, in an attempt to scare them, it's amazing that me and my friends weren't abducted, you know? And especially back then, you couldn't even report your kid missing for 72 hours. I mean, can you imagine living in that world? Like, you go into a police station in 1982 and you're like, my 5-year-old son's been missing for the past couple hours. The cops are like, well, you got to give the little tyke a few days. For all you know, he just got some hookers, some coke, he took off to Vegas, he's just blowing off some steam. You got to wait 72 hours, miss, to see if your 5-year-old finds his way home on his own. And that's actually the way it was. Prior to Johnny Gosch going missing, that's exactly how it was. And it was Johnny Gosch, if memory serves, when he went missing. As the result of that disappearance, they reworked those laws so that the second a 5-year-old went missing, they fucking threw out a blanket alert and they did what they could immediately to try and find the kid. So I like that this movie is as unrelenting regarding such an ugly topic because it's scary. And it's so casual how Howard does it. And he's got such finesse and he's so good working these kids. And it sends a very clear message home that, you know, if this type of shit happens to you, you got to tell your parents. Anything like some fucking grown man tells any 12-year-old that they're sexy, find a fucking cop and point that guy out to them, is basically what this movie's saying. And that's how this movie concludes, too. It's a voiceover in an empty courtroom, sort of a cheap way to end the movie, I suppose, but it is suggesting that Howard went to court and he's been arrested and blah, blah, blah. And the voiceover discusses how, you know, inaction is what allows the pedophile to sort of slide in, you know? So don't be ignorant to what your kids may or may not be doing. Try to stay involved in yada, yada, yada. So the movie was really effective, and it stayed with me. I've watched this a couple times now, and I just can't believe how raw the opening is with what Howard did to that first girl and how there's absolutely nothing left of her. This movie's on YouTube, too, so if memory serves, I'll put it in the description. But look, I'm going to leave it there. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little over, actually just about 7.5 minutes while I discussed the probably very little known 1981 made-for-TV movie, Fallen Angel. Like always, if you like this review or you like this movie, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. But please, most importantly, don't forget that the world is actually a better place because you are in it. Like always, I'm going to go. Have a good night.